break it down, slice it and dice it so that we can allocate it to products so we can better track how specific products are doing, right? Remember in lesson 1, management needs to plan, allocate resources, monitor those resources, and determine how well we're doing. Well, we need to do that. The best way to do it is break down all of the costs, assign it to specific products, so we know how well that product, that line, that segment is doing. So we take all these costs, we assign it to pools, and from those pools then we assign it to products as they go through that product pool, that rate. So that's activity-based costing. Let's go to the problem. Turn over your cheat sheet. Okay, so we're on the back side of the lesson 3 cheat sheet, and we're going to go through an activity-based costing system example. So let's go through all the given information first. A. Round Belly makes 2 sailboats, a 12-foot boat and a 14-foot boat. B. The company has been losing market share for its 12-foot sailboat to competitors who are offering lower prices. C. The company has been gaining market share for its 14-foot sailboat. D. For the current year, Round Belly has budgeted 100,000 14-foot boats and 400,000 12-foot boats. Round Belly's E. Round Belly's traditional cost system applies manufacturing overhead to products based on direct labor hours. It's traditional cost system, a job order costing system. So that the traditional system applies overhead based on direct labor hours. F. Both sailboats require 6 direct labor hours to complete, for a total of 3 million direct labor hours. Sorry, stuttering there. 3 million direct labor hours. G. Total manufacturing overhead costs for the year are estimated to be 33 million. G. Total manufacturing overhead costs for the current year. H. Unit costs for materials and labor are 14-foot boat, direct materials $180, and direct labor $120. For a 12-foot boat, direct materials of $100 and direct labor of $120. I. Round Belly has come up with 7 activity cost pools, shown in the table below. J. Round Belly's materials purchases for the year totaled $70,890,000. Total labor costs for the year were $66,700,000, and all other overhead costs totaled $15 million. Total sales revenue for the year was $302 million. Assume no beginning or ending inventory balances, and all inventory costs were converted into finished goods during the year. Alright, so that last part of J, assume no beginning inventory and no ending inventory and all materials converted. So that's going to help us avoid sort of the math involved in the schedule of goods manufactured, where we take beginning minus ending. We're going to assume everything is used, so the given information we're not going to need to do any specific math. The reason being is we're just trying to demonstrate, well, we already know that, right? We learned it in lesson 1, we learned it in lesson 2. Now we're just trying to learn how to do an activities-based costing system. So that's why that information is given. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to determine estimated units in the allocation base. Alright, so 14-foot sailboat, there's 100,000 units we're going to produce, and there's 6 hours per unit. So there's a total of 600,000 units. There's the 12-foot sailboat, we're going to produce 400,000 units, and there's also 6 hours per unit. So the total direct labor hours that we're expecting to use is 3 million. Number 2, determine direct and indirect materials and direct and indirect labor by product. All right, so the direct costs for the 14-foot boat, direct materials we expect to be 18 million, and direct labor we expect to be 12 million. Now, how do we calculate that? Well, for the 14-foot boat, the direct materials is $180 per unit, and direct labor is $120 per unit, and we're expecting to produce 100,000. The math: 100,000 times 180 is 18 million. 100,000 times 120 is 12 million. Direct cost for the 12-foot boat is 40 million materials and 48 million labor. How do we do that? We're expecting 400,000 units, and direct labor or direct materials is $100, and direct labor is 120. So the math: 400,000 times 100 is 40 million. 120 times the 400,000 is 48 million. So our total direct cost are 58 million for direct materials and 60 million for direct labor. Now, back in the given information, we were given our expected annual total cost, right? In in J, we said Round Valley's materials purchases for the year totaled $70,890,000. That's right here. And total direct labor for the year was $66,700,000. So that goes right here. So if this was our total materials cost and this was our total labor cost, these are our direct materials and these are our direct labor, the difference between the total and then the direct is going to be the indirect. So the indirect is $12,890,000 and $6,700,000. Now, we're going to do the traditional base costing, or the job order costing, using the allocation of direct labor hours first. We're going to do that first, then we're going to get into the activity base, because at the end we're going to compare the two. So, so 3, we need to determine the predetermined overhead rate using the total estimated manufacturing cost. Right? So up in the given information, it said Round Valley estimates that its total overhead or manufacturing overhead costs are expected to be $33 million. And our estimated units in the allocation base, well, up here at 1, we calculated that our total expected direct labor hours are going to be 3 million, and since we allocate based on direct labor hours, we're going to put that in the denominator, and we're going to get $11 per direct labor hour. That's going to be our allocation rate. So let's determine a per unit cost using the direct labor hours as the overhead allocation base unit cost. So basically, we're going to do similar to what we did in lesson 2. Is we're going to just take our allocation rate times the number of hours, and we're going to come up with a unit cost. So we got direct materials for the 14-foot 14-foot boat. Direct materials 180. Direct labor 120. Manufacturing overhead is 66. Right? It's 6 hours times the $11. 66, and then we got direct materials for the 12-foot boat, 100, direct labor for the 12-foot boat, that's 120, and then manufacturing overhead is the same, 66, because it's 6 hours for each. So we're coming up with a unit cost of the 14-foot sailboat at $366 and the 12-foot boat at $286. So that's the unit cost under the traditional allocation of total manufacturing overhead divided by the cost driver, direct labor hours. That's the traditional cost. Well, the cost under the traditional method. Now let's go into the activity-based costing and see if that is different. So 5, management at Round Valley has come up with the following information related to expected activity for each of its 7 activity cost pools. This information is gathered by collaborating with members of each unit level. Note that the total cost agrees to the estimated total manufacturing overhead costs used in the direct labor costing. Okay, so you remember on the other side of the cheat sheet we had that chart where we say activity-based costing. We got all of our manufacturing overhead costs, and then we got each of the cost pools. Well, this is the breakdown of each of those cost pools. So we got labor-related, we got $3.2 million. We got machine-related, $9,325,000. Machine setups, $4 million. Production orders, we got $7,890,000. Parts administration, $630,000. General factory, we got $6,459,500. And then customer admin, we've got $1,495,500. You add all those together. You add all those together, that's the $33 million. That's our estimated annual overhead. But we're breaking it down into pools. Remember, we sliced and diced it. We've got it to a disaggregated cost pool. Like we said on the reverse side, we got to take the full manufacturing overhead. We're going to break it into little pools. Now, how are we going to determine activity rate? Well, we need to come up with our estimated activity level, right? So we got expected activity for the 14-foot boat and the 12-foot boat. So for labor-related pool, we're expecting 1 million direct labor hours. That's our expected activity. How do we know that? It's the 14-foot boat and then the 12-foot boat. There's 200,000, 800,000. Those together is the 1 million. Those are direct labor hours. Machine-related. So we've got a total of 2 million machine hours that